You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of sound, a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of changes and fear. You've just crossed over into the unknown.
What's up, JHM? My name's Montana, and I need to know. Most of us are afraid of something, right? Maybe it's like a fear of snakes or spiders, or maybe it's something a little more weird like a fear of feet or birds. For me, it's lizards and balloons. I know, super weird, but ever since I was little, it's always been those two things. And yeah, I know, people thought I was weird back then too. You don't have to remind me. But I was terrified, you guys. I mean, have you ever played that game where you have to everyone ties a balloon to their foot, you run around and you try to pop someone else's balloon and you try not to let them pop yours, and if you still have it at the end, you win? Well, yeah, I was that kid who sat at the side and watched from the side like a loser. I definitely wasn't gonna volunteer to do that. That's not my definition of fun. And I mean, have you ever seen the little feet on lizards? Like their long tails and the little feet? Yeah, no, I'm so out. Now, these fears are true for me, but maybe not for you. Here's what I want you to do right now. In your buckets, there's signs with words on them. I want your group to put them in order from scariest to least scary. Ready? Go. Okay, now everyone hold up the sign you think is the scariest and check everyone else's out. See, a lot of us have similar and different fears, but here's the deal. We're all afraid of something. So why are we spending so much time talking about the stuff we're afraid of? Well, because we're in the middle of a series called Into the Unknown, and in it, we've been talking about how to deal with the changes and unknowns that might come our way. And I don't know about you, but sometimes dealing with the unknown feels a lot like dealing with spiders or heights or lizards and balloons. In other words, the unknown can be super scary. Maybe you can totally relate to this feeling. Maybe like me, you've felt fear when you've gone through a change in your life. Like your first day at a brand new school, thinking about where you're gonna sit at lunch, if you're gonna be able to find your locker, what other people will think of you. That can all be scary. Or trying out for the school play for the first time. Will you learn all the lines? Will you get the part? Will you somehow embarrass yourself in the process? Or having a new stepdad move into your house, wondering if he'll still be cool when he moves in, or if you'll still live in the same room because you have new step siblings now, or if the rules will change in your house now that he's there. Thinking about that kind of change can be scary. The list could go on and on, right? A new friend group, the loss of a friendship that meant a lot to you, your parents getting divorced, an older sibling moving out, your parents losing their job, a new small group, an illness in your family, a higher level class at school. When we look ahead and see changes like that coming our way, or when we don't know what's waiting for us in the unknown, well, that can leave us feeling a whole lot of fear. Maybe we're afraid that things will never go back to the way they were before, or we're afraid that the changes we're facing will bring a lot of stress, frustration, or sadness. Or maybe we're afraid that we'll have to handle it alone, that our friends or family or small group, even God, won't be there to help us deal with it. No matter what changes and unknowns you're facing in your life right now, chances are you feel at least a little bit nervous or afraid. Even the best kind of change can be intimidating or bring a little bit of fear. It's possible to be excited for something and a little bit scared all at the same time. But what if I told you there was a way to look ahead at changes coming our way without as much fear? In fact, what if we could face going into the unknown with courage? I bet all of us would like to be those people who choose courage when we go through changes, good or bad. Well, today we're gonna look at something that happened to two guys thousands of years ago that helped them choose courage even though they were afraid. So the people we're talking about are known as the Israelites. They were God's chosen people, which is a pretty cool title if you ask me. And when they were living a long
time ago,
God did something really cool for them. God led them down to Egypt to escape a terrible famine, which basically means all the food in their land had run out. Like, remember the grocery stores in 2020? Like that. Sounds like a good change, right? Well, sometime after they got there, the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. When that happened, they cried out to God for help, and God sent a man named Moses to lead the Israelites out of slavery. Moses was going to lead God's people to an incredible new land of their own, a land they called the Promised Land. Out of slavery and to the Promised Land? Again, that all sounds like good change, right? Nothing to fear there. Well, when they arrived at the edge of the Promised Land, the Israelites got nervous. They got scared about what might lie ahead. So they sent 13 spies into the land to check things out. The spies went in and found that the land was absolutely beautiful. It was everything they dreamed it would be. But there was one small problem. There were people who looked like giants living there. Suddenly, this change wasn't looking so awesome. The spies went on to tell all of Israel that there was no way that they could live there. They were too afraid. Now, in a lot of ways, you can't really blame them, right? Like, giants are scary. And going to war against giants, even scarier. Their fears were pretty understandable. And I think the same can be true for us. The fears that we feel when looking ahead at the changes we might deal with are understandable. They're real, and there's nothing wrong with us feeling that fear. The problem comes when we let the fear hold us back, when we stay frozen because we're afraid of what's ahead in the unknown. That's when we risk missing out on something that could turn out to be pretty awesome. That's what happened to the Israelites. They were too afraid to conquer the land that God had promised them. Well, all of the Israelites except two. Two of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, they came back with a completely different view of things. And they said to the entire Israelite assembly, "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into the land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them." You see, everyone else was terrified of these giants, and Joshua and Caleb were terrified too. But the difference was that they trusted God. They believed God's promise that the land was for them, and that belief gave them the courage to move forward towards a big change, even though they were scared. And honestly, they probably were terrified. But here's the thing about courage. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about trusting and choosing to follow God, even though we're scared. That's what allows us to be confident when everything changes. We have God. Even though we may be scared about what may be in our future, we can trust that God is bigger than anything we'll face, because God is bigger than anything in the unknown. Joshua and Caleb knew that God was bigger than their fears, so that means we can also trust God when we're scared of change and the unknown. So what does that look like for us today? How can we have courage when we're looking ahead at changes in our lives, big or small, that leave us feeling a little bit afraid? How can we remember that God is bigger than anything in the unknown? Well, first, I think we have to recognize what we're afraid of. When we look out at the unknowns in your life, what do you see that's causing you fear? Whatever it is, name it. Acknowledge what it is that you're afraid of. Then, try to do what Joshua and Caleb did. Focus on God. When you think about what changes you're afraid of, remember that God is with you. God is bigger than anything in the unknown. Let me share an idea that might help. Whatever you focus on will grow bigger and bigger in your mind. If you focus on what you're afraid of, how worried you are, all of the what ifs that might happen, your fear will grow bigger and bigger in your mind. So instead of focusing on God, focus on who God is. How powerful God is, how God is in control of everything. Focus on the fact that God is with you every step of the way. Focus on the truth that God is bigger than anything you face. Focus on the truth that God is working for good in every single situation. As you focus on God, you'll find that your fear is smaller than God is. Remember, God is bigger than anything in the unknown, and that means we don't have to face our fears and changes alone. Not only do we have God, but we have people like your small group and your small group leaders to stand with us when we face whatever is in the unknown. They're there to help and encourage you whenever you need it and whenever you face your fears. Today, I hope your first step will be to open up with your small group about how you feel about change in the unknowns in your life right now.